So what is a process? Ultimately, what is it? Now, from a definition point of view, it is a series of actions and steps that are taken in order to achieve a particular end. And in the context that we're going to talk about in sport is your performance, is the outcome, is executing a skill to the best of your ability. Now, how does a process help us? What are the benefits of a process? And it essentially comes down to the fact that a process is 100% in your control. A lot of the time when we are focused in sport, we are focused on the outcome, and you hear of these outcome goals. And in psychology, you'll hear the difference between outcome goals and process goals. Outcome goals are the outcome of the result, the skill, the result of a game, ultimately that outcome. And we place our goals on the outcome. I want to win the race. I want to win this moment in the game. And ultimately, those are not fully in our control. We can influence them, but they're not 100% guaranteed. Whereas process goals, they are how we go about getting to that performance, how we go about getting to that execution of the skill, the process that gets us to that. And when we focus on that, those are 100% in our control. And so being in our control, as I've mentioned, being in control, as I've mentioned so many times on the podcast, is about allowing us to reduce anxiety, because anxiety is us trying to control something that we can't control, but wanting to control it. So when we're able to focus on a process that is in our control, that can help reduce our anxiety and also perhaps even increase our confidence and our competency that we feel in control of what we're about to do. Another benefit is the fact that it's actually trainable. Once you've got a process, you can go train it. And the large part of this episode is going to be about going and training your process. So you can actually work on it, you can take it away, you can write it down, you can alter it, you can change things, you can experiment, you can play around with it to try and get the best process for the best execution, the best skill, the best performance that you're trying to achieve. And then when you get sort of further down the line, when you're actually trying to develop that process and stress it a little bit, you can start to test it under pressure. And a brilliant thing is, when you're under pressure, a process becomes invaluable because you can have holistic process goals where they are such things as like a short word that reminds you of all the different mechanisms in your process that you would create in training, but they're too much to remember in the moment. So you say one word or a phrase that reminds you of all those things. I'll give you an example. My process when I'm bowling is quite a large one. I have to make sure that the ball is in my hand in a certain way. I have my fingers on one stitch. I have my middle finger on one stitch, my index finger on another. When I have my run up, I turn left. I sort of like Zoolander. I then execute the start of that run up by pressing my right foot down and then pumping my knees through that process. I'm getting tall in my action. I'm then running at a certain intensity on the first third of my run up, then the second third of my run up, and then the third of my run up. I'm doing different things there. And then all throughout that, I'm focused in on a certain part of the pitch. And I've also associated that part of the pitch with the ball that I'm going to bowl. So the decision that I've made at the very top of my run up. Now that may seem really complicated and there's almost some things there that I'm missing. But when I'm in the moment and I'm actually doing it, I will just say things like ball, mark, tall, and pump. And those will be just words that I will say at certain points to execute my process. But ultimately, if all of that's in check, sometimes I'm not even saying that. If I feel like I'm in good rhythm, I might even choose one part of that process that I'm focusing on, or I focus on just where I'm about to bowl the ball. I'm just nailed in, I'm zoned in, locked in. And it'll just be an intense intention onto that one part of the process. So the idea of having these simple process goals and these phrases and words in your process is so that when you're under pressure and your mind is running and you've got lots going on, you can just zone it down. You can simplify it down to maybe one or two words and just remind you of it. But all of that has been trained, it has been honed, it has been refined, it has worked, it's seen some success, so that I know if I do those things, my chances of me executing my skill go way up. And as well, if I am out of form, I can recognize if I'm not doing those things. So they give me a bit of a handle to come back to. And that's a really big, important part of having a process, is that if you feel out of form, if you are not doing things right, sometimes you may not be doing your process. You may not be doing the things that have got you to a good outcome and a good execution of your skill and your performance, because you are not focusing on your process. So if you're out of form, you can always refer back to your process. Just double check. Maybe something's changed. Maybe you're doing something differently. You can use a coach. And lastly, you have this increase of motivation, because when you take away the external pressures of the outcome of the result and you don't focus on those and you focus on the process, you can be simply motivated on the fact that all of this is in my control. And if I do this, then my chances of success go up. Whereas if we only dwell on the outcome, there can be huge amounts of the opposition. I feel they're better than me, the expectations of others, the environment I'm in, all of these external factors that are going on that could create negative self-talk, that could make you doubt yourself. You'll start to think, okay, I'm maybe not as motivated to do this. But if you focus on your process, and if I can execute my process as many times as I possibly can, then I know I can walk away and hopefully I've had a good outcome. But if not, I'm motivated to go and try again in the next game. Hey, if you've enjoyed that video, then you can click right here to watch the full unedited version of that episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel by clicking the button below. I'll see you soon.